Guys, so I had this interesting conversation a couple of days ago with a friend who happened to complete about 12 years in a travel technology company. This was the first company that he started his career with, and this year he made a product manager. And he did the most natural thing as anyone would do, right? Dig into Google, dig into literature out there, dig into YouTube and LinkedIn to find resources to upskill, to do justice to the role that they are in now. And then after about 3 to 4 months of this research and stuff, he happened to give me a call and he's like, I am designated as product manager, but everything that product manager management encompasses, it looks like I've been doing that already for the last 3 to 4 years, right? But he was never been officially designated as product manager. And he told me everything, what all he did. And he was like, is this it? And I was like, yeah, dude. I mean, that is everything. It led me to believe that maybe the literature and everything out there, there are so many influencers now, so many certifications in product management, so many courses. And it led me to believe that are we kind of trivializing this whole thing, or it's becoming too easy for people to become product managers, but maybe it's still difficult to do the actual job. uh, it just led me to think that I'm like, okay, guy, you're fine, you're doing okay. This is what exactly is all about. And then there was a second part of the conversation also, which I'll take up later. But I just want to circle with Mohit. Mohit, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting space to be really honest, right? The example or the instance, if I circle back, it's more about I'll take it from a different lens where I'll try to see whether a title is important or the work is important, right? I would still like to do a due diligence, an introspection, what we call in, and if I talk about what you mentioned around a lot of material literature, I somehow feel it's a marketing gimmick, right? So
Hmm.
it's more of a fad that is going across. It's like bombardment of content without gauging if there is a significant value. I don't think
Right.
any hiring process even looks through the certifications, right? I'll just try to give my last cent on it, which is more about if you really are have a good amount of money and you want to spend across to prototype your idea, do that self
Oh,
learning
yeah.
and leverage your current job is what I'll suggest, right?
Build something
And
always, yeah.
yeah, and not everyone could be a product manager, should not be even, right?
Hmm.
Like all people, with due respect to consultants, even being a BA or even being a developer, architect, all these are pretty needed, roles in the market. So everyone
Hmm.
shouldn't just vouch for being a product manager. Yeah, yeah, that's where I would like to summarize this, and I'd also look to hear Muni's comments, like what he thinks about it.
Cool. Thanks, Mohit. Hey, I mean, I think, yeah, I think that's an interesting question. It reminds me of actually my journey in 2010. I was in the US working for the Yellow Pages company, and I was doing a lot of product management stuff without me having that title or without me kind of getting too much aware of it. I think coming back to today's scenario, I think I agree that there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of literature. So I think an interesting perspective to this could also be that there is now recognition to the role of
Hmm.
product management. There is now industry is seeing value in that role, and
Hmm.
maybe that's how it is getting surfaced in the beginning, where there are a lot of certifications out there. There's a lot of content out there, so perhaps it's not too bad a thing as well that there is a recognition, there is a career path. Uh, uh, I won't be surprised if in the next few years or in the next couple of years, some premier business institute starts to offer MBA in product management in tech, the way things are going.
Yes.
So so yeah, I think that's definitely one perspective. But like with everything else in life, uh, you can only learn as much with theory and with literature, which is useful, I think. Uh, and I think, as you mentioned, there are frameworks and things like that. But ultimately, what will make a difference, what will make the real product manager stand out will be what happens in the middle, how the product manager performs while working on a product in the space. So yeah, will the real product manager please stand up? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. Ultimately, that's what's going to move the needle. But yes, there is a lot of theory out there, which may not be too bad as well. If there's some person who's interested, that theory, that education, that literature can help that individual.
True.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Amit, do you
Amit?
want to share your perspective? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and amazing points. And I'll take a little contrarian view. When we say experience, do we say operational experience? Product management as a function should reside in the problem space, helping define the problem, what we are trying to fix, why we are trying to fix, is it worth it? Now, there are ways the skills can be acquired, and those skills could generally be through education, through certification, and adding them in the education budget, or by having an inquisitive mindset. Inquisitiveness comes from a long career of asking questions, or being generally the guy who's not like much in the room, but he's asking things. So I think that's okay, as long as you have this ability and skills which come from an operational experience. So those two aspects are necessary, and the third aspect is leadership for a product manager. So that requires you to have some sort of understanding of markets, customers, so on and so forth. So that should have anybody who's applying to a PM job have those things under the belt before you think of yourself as a product manager. Or
got it.
Yes.
Nice, fair points, guys. But tell me something. So, what happened to software engineering about 10 years ago? India is generating like 400,000 software engineers every year. And it kind of feels like, or probably it's just me, but it kind of feels like product management wave is also something similar, where now fresh graduates are actually being launched into the industry as product managers. And okay, fair enough. They probably learn with everything, just the way we learn software engineering. They probably are coming with the syllabus of product management as the background, and they're fresh into that particular industry. But does that mean that the entry barrier is too low to come into here? And the reason why I ask this question is because the success rates are not very high. So, being there, done that, probably in my head is a better way to. So this person that I was talking about, right, spent 12 years in that company and now is organically become a product manager very consciously as a career move. So he probably knows the way ahead and how to become a successful one, maybe. But early launching into that career, how do you think? Even if it is easier to probably go through this literature, these frameworks and common and general skills, even if you're born with some basic skills like you're good at articulation, you're good at presenting your ideas and thoughts to others, your self-organizational skills are great. So if you are born with these skills, maybe you'll cut it, okay, right? So you'll probably sail through the first 5 years very easily. But specifically, Mohit, can you tell me something about, so you touched on that particular point the other day when we were talking about that people still struggle identifying what are outcomes versus output. Mohit, can you just reiterate on that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I agree to a certain extent that entry barrier is low, wherein the entry may be smooth or easy. But somewhere I also have an opinion, like who gets to see the real grind of it, right? If I talk about these early stages and of mine also, somebody takes a decision and a so-called title of a product manager is just there in an executioner, right? If we are defining that product manager as that role, then everybody is a product manager, right? So coming to the example, what I shared that day, still with people who have, spent good amount of time, are titled as senior product manager or a group product manager to a certain extent in this, smaller setups. I struggle to even, have those conversations where what an outcome is and what an output is, right? So it's more about They're still into that psyche, okay, deliver the feature, what my market competitor is doing. That's fair that you need to take some ideas from what your competition is doing, but it cannot be exactly copied. Where is your brain coming? You are validating it, right? So that's where, if you really see, and this happens primarily in engineering first organization, where they might call that we have a product, group, we have a product lens, but still, if you see, the whole idea of product doesn't come up, right? And what I really see is the real grind comes in when you are able to make your product successful, managing the expectation of the management who makes the noise, the board
Right.
who has this in it, and then also, just taking from a perspective, how many of these opportunities give you a role of a CEO of a product, right? At least it took me
Yeah.
years where
Yeah.
I was even handling that, even getting a view of the P&L. Forget about the handling part of it, right? So I don't think, these fresh grads and others really get into that mindset. That's where, this entry is still, the barrier is still low, but somewhere it is not seeing the real world, is what I would like to highlight here.
Oh, yes, that is brilliant. Authority, autonomy, accountability, right? So, yeah, perfectly summed up, Mohit. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Munish, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think Mohit definitely touched on some interesting areas. And I think, yeah, I believe that yes, there are signs that entry level is getting low. Entry barriers are getting low, and similar to what we discussed previously as well, that who's the real product manager, please stand up. I think there will be, that's where the industry seems to be going, that yes, there will be a situation where there'll be a lot of them, yeah, especially when MBA schools are going to start to offer these degrees, the Institute of Product Management. So yes, there will be a lot of product management managers. I think there is also a bit of a feeling in the industry that it takes some metal to crack into software engineering. Yeah, it takes uh, the entrance exams to get into premier software engineering institutes is really tough, and you need to work really hard to become a good software engineer. Product management, you can probably get some certifications and things like that. So yes, I think on the outset that's what it looks like. But as Mohit was pointing out, a good product manager needs to have a lot of breadth and depth in areas, which comes with experience, and which also comes with some personality traits. So does one enjoy, speaking to customers? Does one enjoy interacting with users? How do those interactions go? Are we able to decipher what is an output versus what is an outcome? Are we able to understand what are the right business metrics for the business to be moved, and can we get the overlap in where we prioritize the right user problems that will move the right metrics that business is looking for.
Right.
And that comes with, you need to go through the natural grind, you need to go through that process to be able to understand what good looks like in product management. So yes, uh, the barrier seems to be low, but when companies are looking for good talent, I think they will look for track record, they will look for credibility, they will look for what people have achieved in certain in the previous experiences, how they've navigated complexity, and those are the things that are going to come through in conversations. So yeah, as I said, fair enough. The people are entering product management space early, but I think they will go through their own journey. And companies who want to, build groundbreaking products and things like that, they will be looking for credibility. They will be looking for track record. So yeah, I'm not too pessimistic, to be honest, in terms of the real managers shining. Yeah.
So it's good for the industry. I'm an optimist, and 15 years back, when there were very less product management jobs. When Mind the Product started, there were only a handful of people going to meetups, and then a subset of them getting offered jobs. Today, we see a lot of new jobs coming up in product management, and not only in those traditional Silicon Valley hubs or Bangalore, but on all the other sides of country. And there's a shortage of product manager, which is why management institutes and kind of freshers have started going into it, and kind of it is following through that high demand, low supply curve, and that's where the salaries are high as well, which is nice. I feel that companies have realized that product managers are necessary to create a more successful product, and that's why they're investing in product management as a principle, along with engineering, QA, DevOps, and all the other software roles. A product manager role is becoming more and more integral to the success and to the failure of a product. So having more product managers is good. Over the period of time, it could follow a bell curve, and we might see a lull and a decline in product management if these product managers, if the newer product managers, they do not perform. And that's the risk which we see.
Oh, that is awesome. So yeah, I mean, I'll pull one statement from your thing, which you had said the last time. The entry barrier may be low, but the journey from the entry to the success of a product manager is quite high, and it's large. The gap is large. So you can probably do the regular stuff with ease, but if you really have to turn around a product and make a good business out of it, you are going to have to do the real stuff, right? The real meaty stuff. But yeah, so let me jump into the second part of the conversation. So this person who had built the whole product and worked in the product ecosystem for 12 years with the same company and the same product, during his research, he figured out that this product would lose its value to AI pretty soon. And an equivalent competitor is already out there using the LLM model to build holiday packages. So what he believes, and these are his words, so he believes that the product will lose its purpose, and there won't be any requirement. The nature of the traveler is changing, tourism industry is changing, and AI will influence that even more. Okay, so fair enough. So he held like a big, very large domain bias. And my response to him was, has that day already come? And he was like, no, maybe not yet, but a few years down the line. So I'm like, so what is your plan for these few years while you're still at it? So will you milk the cow while the cow is still alive, right? So, but it led me to believe that he may not be the right product manager for this product, because now he has to struggle with this big bias that he has developed. And now it is going to take a hit on his creativity and innovation. And I'm not sure if he'll be able to do justice to that particular product, which brings me to this new term, which I was just thinking about, is this PMF, the product market fit. It probably would be product manager fit also. And would that actually mean, can any product manager manage any product? Mohit, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll actually rephrase it to the original thing. Can any product fit in any market? So if you really see, the answer could be yes or no, right? It all depends across. It could. I'll say yes if you have those market innovators and so that marketing kind of team that can help you to fit in there. And the similar is the answer here, right? Like my if you ask me, right, if I even see my journey, I've seen multiple domains, and then the recent one from last 3-4 years has been into data space, right, where it's all about data products, data platform as a product and other thing. And to be very honest, the earlier days were very tricky, right, wherein I had no idea where it is going. And I was biased by the other one, right, as your friend looks to be being in that domain and other thing, right? But somewhere I see that there's always a space where you can break across. That's where your innovation, and I'll say how much fire you have in yourself, right? Like, at least if I see myself, after 3-4 years, I see, I know all the things in this domain, and then I should switch. It could be, be my overconfidence, I can call it. So that's where I also want to talk in, we actually, always talk about SMEs need to be like a prerequisite for a product manager, or still it is. At least my thought there is, SME, as a skill need not to be there if you have to be a successful product manager. It's just that, the fundamentals don't change, right? That's the first thing. You
Right.
would still have users, you'll still have their pain points, you'll still have opportunities, and you'll still try to see how to solve it, right? So
Half
if I
knowledge and too much knowledge is dangerous for the
dangerous,
product.
yeah. That's where that sweet spot lies. And then when do you realize you are in that sweet spot, you have to identify, right? So just to summarize, if I take your friend's example, or even if I take an example of SMEs, yeah, definitely, after a certain point of time, you realize it's saturation that comes in. That's where your mental block plays a role. How much you are thinking out of the box, or how much you are thinking. At least what I try doing is think it from other industries. Take an omni-channel example. It is across every industry. It's been happening where you're bringing a omni-channel as a concept, right? Customer experience and other thing. So somewhere, if you're blocked on certain angle, change your industry, change your thinking lens, change your hat, and try to see. That could be one of the helpful pieces that could navigate in this kind of.
Nice. Munish?
Yeah, I think Marty Kagan, that reminds me, has done some work in this space. And if you think about it, for a product manager to be really good at his or her job, I think there are few things that are really needed. So I think the product manager needs to have a great understanding with the customer, with the users of that business. Needs to be data driven, evidence driven, look for qualitative data, look for quantitative data to be able to make decisions. Needs to have good knowledge of that domain. Yeah, that's where probably a friend's example comes in, who does have great knowledge of that domain, of that business for a certain period of time. And needs to not just have the knowledge of that specific business, but also be able to predict the market, be able to predict the industry, and build expertise rather, in that space. So I completely agree that you need expertise. Now, for a product manager starting in a space, may not always have that luxury to have expertise and knowledge and great relationships with the customers, with the users all the time, right? So does it mean that you can't be a good product manager if you're entering a new space? I think there needs to be, and I think that's what Marty Kagan has written, that or shared his experience, and I completely agree with that. That there needs to be some time. You can call it the gestation. I'm ready to call it gestation period of a product manager, where you need a few months to be able to build that empathy. So if you're getting into a
Right.
new space, you need to have that time and space agreed wherever you are entering, that you will need few months, you need a couple of months to build empathy with the customers, to understand the users, to understand the market. Now, having a subject matter expert will definitely help. So I think it's about capability more than the skills, and capability can be provided by a combination of one or two people in your team. That, hey, I'm entering a new space. I don't know about this as much as I would like to be, for me to be successful in my role. And at that point in time, I would want to would like to collaborate with the subject matter expert, get through that initial period of grind, get that knowledge, and then utilize that knowledge and the first principles of product management in a new space. So yeah, I think that would be my approach to for a product manager fit. I think that's a great question. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Amit?
Well, so I think your friend is worrying about a scenario which is probably going to happen. There are other scenarios as well which will make his product redundant, competition
Correct.
picking up,
Right.
the product losing its funding. There are engineers not working best. So there are more than one ways in which a company can or a product can fail. Thinking about AI is just one aspect of it.
Right.
So luckily for us, product management is still in nascent phase. And the skills are transferable. We are not yet in a phase where you're a foreman, you're a mason, or somebody whose jobs who could do only one thing. Where product management is mostly a skilled work. So the skills are transferable to other industry too. So your friend is tell him the good news that he's in good shape, and he will have a job. Just don't make it bomb the product.
Yeah. Amit, but that's an interesting point you make, and I want to actually dig you a little deeper on that. So you said the skills are definitely transferable, right? So now, let's take example of your current product ecosystem, if I may. If you had to find a new product manager to transfer your skills, or let's say your job to someone else, what would be these non-negotiable traits you would look at in this particular person?
So I work in an e-commerce domain, and for us, it's most important to be customer empathy. A little broader term, but then if we do not understand our customer, if we do not empathize with the problems these customers are facing, somebody else will. So yeah, empathizing with customer, understanding their problems is important for us. Also understanding we are in a supply chain, so we sell a product that is used to make other product. So if we do not ship on time, customers probably lose their shipping timelines. So understanding how your business or your product impacts someone's business or life. So that's one.
Do you have a way to assess that by any way? Can you assess empathy?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. You find people who are there are some ways to know how people behave, and there are certain frameworks you would want to know. You can measure the impact of the empathy. So if you cannot measure how empathetic a product manager is, but you would know how when they talk to the customers, how does the customers feel? Are their customers being loyal? So that empathy is an input to how your outcome is.
Well said.
Outcome. Yeah.
So same question goes on to you, Munish. Today, if you had to find a product manager, if you had to offload your job to someone else, what are those non-negotiable traits that you would look into that person, and how would you assess the fit?
Cool. Thanks for the question, Amir. So I think when I work at Equal Experts, we are doing some work around what does good look like in product management. So I think at some point in time, watch out for that blog article, or we'll probably socialize it outside. In the meanwhile, I think for me it still goes back to the first principles, right? So is it like what Amit was mentioning? Does the candidate or the person whom I'm interviewing in a product management role, does that person portray business and user empathy? Typically there is a bit of a fad around user empathy, but people miss the fact that product managers are also there to move the right business metrics. So is the candidate able to decipher what would be the right problems that move the right business metrics, or even what are the right business metrics to move? So I think those would be some useful areas to go further in. Storytelling or communication, it sounds like it probably sounds like everybody's talking about it, but I do think it's really important. How a product manager communicates, how a product manager crafts a vision statement. Can the product manager get the team and get the whole area or people whom the product manager works with to rally around that vision statement? Is the vision very inspiring? That can get people to rally around it? I think those are also some key areas that I try to look for. I also look for a bit of an evidence, how the product manager has navigated through complexity. Like we were discussing in the previous examples, that while the first principles remain the same, complexity kind of changes
Right.
environment. and how what's your track record in navigating through complexity, and how you introduced a simple solution to complex problems, getting some evidence through conversations. I think that's also quite useful. And I think lastly, a very important aspect of a product manager is to build relationships. I think
Ah,
relationship
yes.
is a key. No matter in that space, no matter which layer that you're kind of working with, whether you're working with your team, who's going to build the product for you, you're working with your business stakeholder, you're working with the user, you're working with clients, and how do you navigate through all this relationship building is a key aspect. So yeah, I think those would be some of the areas that I try to look into when I'm kind of speaking to product managers.
Yeah. I did read somewhere, it was a meme probably. It said the introverts make the best product managers. I'm sure, I'm sure there is no baseline to that, and there's no evidence to prove that. But yeah, I think they're the
That's
most
true.
non-judgmental people, I guess, on the planet. But yeah, okay, personal traits are definitely important. I love that last point, by the way. Yeah. Mohit, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. I'm not sure if this was covered, but I think if I really have to see, something from what I am doing, the first one is the stakeholder management. Like what I define is audacity to say no. The space I operate across, it's where like there's a lot of influence, there's a lot of pressure, I can say, wherein you might get into that world of biasness and get influence from that. So somewhere like one of the typical setups that happen is irrespective which value is coming, where value is coming, who brings the most money on the table wins the race, right? So
Hmm.
so that's where that role comes in, where you say, okay, but why we need to do that, right? So that's where
Right.
a sweet spot wherein you can say no, but also justified by data and logics, right? So that's where your that knack comes into the picture. The other bits is, at least my experience in has been all in the technology heavy things. So at least if someone I see, he or she needs to understand technology. I'm not saying he or she needs to be a developer or somewhere. I've not coded myself ever, but still it cannot be that technology alien for me, right? So that knack where you try to associate with technology so that nobody can make a fool out of you, if I have to put it simply. I think that's one of the traits I would look across, right? And third, I think it's already covered, which is result oriented.
Ah,
That's where
yes.
your ways. I think we also keep on juggling in a setup where we might have delivered value, we have not even communicated it. So that's the fourth point, how you can articulate that value and the impact, and be a great communicator. So three or four pieces that I see might help across. All others are byproduct, I guess, that empathy and other thing that would help you to reach there. But these are the four on top of my head that would help to sustain.
Oh, awesome. I loved the whole list,
Yeah.
right? I'm just going to say something in the context to what we are working on right now. If you realize in day-to-day lives, people are intersecting with technology a lot more than ever. Okay, like you're ordering your groceries, you have a lot of subscriptions. People don't even remember what all they've subscribed to, etc. And in that space, we are working in a B2B segment wherein technology is not yet intersecting their workplace, which is manufacturing. So in manufacturing, they actually deal with the real stuff. The only technology they intersect is actually the robotics, which do the work for them in most cases. And then there is, of course, digital IoT, etc., right? Which means the product manager here has to deal with people who don't understand SaaS as a technology or a web application as a technology, and everything has to be like calm down and explain that to like a 5-year-old. So my interviews are extremely interesting. I kind of like test the patience to the extreme of that product manager, so much so that he actually complains back to the recruiter that that guy was just stretching things like chewing gum, like I mean for no reason. And then that's what actually a great metric of that interview is. And then if people actually come back to the recruiter and say, oh, I enjoyed a conversation, I'm like, okay, now I want round two. If that guy enjoyed that conversation, he will be able to talk to my users for sure. So yeah, I mean, we speak to people who have not used any web application in their entire life because they were born with a mobile in their hand. So most of them, in fact, even bought laptops in COVID for their children. They did not even have a PC at home. So there have been such exceptional scenarios, and we are selling technology to these people. So in my world, the product manager needs to have like extreme amount of patience, as if he's treating them like children. It's not about the acumen and IQ, mind you. It is just the technical acceptance or accepting technology into their workplace, right? Anyway, so we already spoke about what we are going to assess, right? How we will bring new people into our teams. But while we are working in our day to day, do you think we fall short on something? So your personal shortcomings, like have you assessed your strengths and weaknesses? And Amit, specifically you. So because I know that you juggle so many balls at the same time, I want to know if you know where you're falling short of and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I work with a very, very interesting question, Amay. And I kind of remind myself that I'm very bad at conflict resolution every time. Sometimes prioritization as well. I would love to prioritize better, and I use you put up those thought of we have multiple tools, multiple subscriptions. So I have 2, 3 subscription of products that are still not able to prioritize. Help me prioritize. You have be name that Calendly, name that Evernote, and I still feel double book, triple book. So yeah, but I think I have to do that better. And then here's conflicts. I as a PM, well, the statement as a PM or as a user is very cliched. I would say that I have to be better at conflict resolution. What happens is when some customers do not like your product, they would go on a huge tirade to say that the product is not good. And there are events when you have to even give them discounts, especially if you're in subscription space. So if your product is not delivering value, then how do you charge subscription for that? And those instances require a little more depth of experience of speaking to customers to those problems. And I think I'm just going through it, not the best version of myself.
So cool. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, I learned it the hard way that 80% of the problems solve themselves if you just listen to people, right? Sometimes they just want to like kind of vent it out because their money is on the line. They have paid for the product. They're like, when am I going to get the bang for my buck, right? So that impatience kind of seeps in, and things don't get built overnight. So even if they said that they wanted something, they will always come and I told this to you 3 months ago, right? Where is it? So I'm like, okay, it's going to take 3 months more, and that is a negotiation which you need to have. And yeah, sometimes beer also helps, by the way. So just saying.
So it helps a lot. That's a good lubricant.
Right. Mohit?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share that. I know it's just between us, so it's always good to confront, right? Like somewhere it might sound so basic, but what I feel for myself is even being biased, right? That biasness comes automatically, wherein you go on a lot of assumptions. If I talk about one of the recent examples where we were trying to do bits into a catalog space, so what I assumed, which was something a kind of miserable, I'll call it, wherein I assumed, okay, let's roll out the first thing with a lot of bells and whistles because they're tech savvy people, right? Those are the consumers are tech savvy, and that's where it hit a roadblock wherein I realized, okay, you should stay away from the bias, right? And what I'm trying to do to go over it is take some more time to understand that space, right? Like, because you are always under tremendous pressure working in certain ecosystem, so you might tend to take decisions just measuring it across the time, and you might not get into the details. So somewhere I'm trying to see that every decision or everything that I take, at least what could be, let's say, the first thin slice, or what would be the first valuable slice. That's where a lot of effort has to be put in, so that you're not carried away by the biasness. So that's the first thing which I really see is a shortcoming at my side. Second basic thing is more about the prioritization. I think Amit already talked across. A lot of times it also relates to biasness. Your gut feel makes you feel right. This is what should be prioritized, right? Or this is what my competitor is doing. This is what is easy, right? That's
Yes.
the biggest thing that I've seen. You see, okay, this is a low hanging fruit. We use these terms, right? This is a low hanging fruit. Let's get it out, right? Let
Yeah.
consumers at least use it. We'll take the feedback and all, but it is
Right.
nothing, right? You just
Correct.
getting it out just for the sake of aligning to the timelines, right? So all these are few pointers which I really keep on thinking, see that I need to improve upon, and it's always a learning path, right? But these are the top
Yes.
ones, I feel.
Yes.
Awesome. That was brilliant. So relatable, Mohit. I mean, I was just taken back to my sprint planning last week. Yeah, okay. Munish, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think those are some really cool ones. I think we spoke about relationships, right? And something that you were saying that you kind of feel how important that is. If you notice, the reason we are talking today is because we probably have a relationship outside of remote work, and I think that is one thing I struggle as a product manager, because thanks to COVID, and then anyway we need to build relationships over over these calls, and typically calls, when they need to be scheduled, they are transactional, right? It's the water cooler conversations, the coffee table conversations, they're all gone. So when we need to build relationship with our clients, with businesses, with our users, they are all happening over video calls. And I would say, I'm no shame to put my hands up that I do think I struggle in that space. Uh, that have I been able to nurture, cultivate meaningful, genuine relationships over calls versus when I used to work in an environment which is co-located. I mean, there are times when even when I'm traveling to the customers' offices, the customers don't show up because everybody's very comfortable. So you're kind of going there, but you see an empty office. So who do you kind of talk to, and who do you kind of build relationship with? So I think this is a new space, right? The proper remote working is now about 2 to 3 years old. So I think this will have its own journey, and I'm definitely looking for more conversations, more examples on how people are, cracking it. So yeah, I think if I were to call out building relationships in a purely remote working environment with a very little hybrid, very little co-location opportunities, I think I do see that the challenge, considering as a product manager, building relationship with multiple people, multiple layers is a key. So yeah, that's
That
one
was
struggle.
brilliant. That was brilliant. Okay, so I mean, I know I kind of fell into the trap when I asked this question because I have like a lot of shortcomings. But there is an example I would like to definitely state. Okay, so someone told me that you don't take opinions. Okay, like at least so when there are 3 or 4 people in the room, please ask what they would, So and this feedback was given to me on a dining table. Like we were out, we're just having a team dinner or something like that. I don't remember the exact space. And they were like, and I said, no, I know what is great here. Let me just go ahead and order at least the first round of starters. And then I got this very strong feedback saying, no, this happens at workplace also. You don't take enough opinions. I said, okay, fair enough. I take that feedback for sure. Okay, I will start taking opinions. I started doing that. Okay. And a few months later, then the feedback came. You're taking opinions, but you're not doing anything with them. So I was like, so
Was
I was like,
it?
you told me to take opinions, but I'm still doing what I think is right, right? So
I
it
mean,
did
that's a
happen.
clear example of outcome versus output, right? So
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Again, you should have
Right.
responded to
So,
saying that.
oh my God.
I think you should
Right,
have
yes,
responded to saying you're doing the 80-20 principle, as you said. Listening, being a good listener, 80% problem is solved.
correct.
So listening on the first 80.
Yeah, exactly. So people feel that they are heard, but maybe when the time when it comes to act, they are just seeing something different happening. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I just said that it's your opinion, but anyway. Okay, so moving on. And probably towards the tapering end of this conversation also, I wanted to know from each one of you if you have like a dream company or a dream product that you would like to manage, or if not that, I mean, everybody is happy in their own spaces today for sure. But if you had to pick another product to manage, do you have like a checklist of sorts saying, okay, if the product has this X, Y, Z, I would really like to work in this space? Or have you developed any preferences over a period of time? Amit, do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there are a lot of products which I want to be a product manager of, and the latest thing, ChatGPT or Bard, why I'm not there. But then over the years, what I've realized is that I'm good at communities, and I like. I'm not saying I'm good at communities. I'm saying what I like to do is build communities, be part of them, and I also like travel. So if there's something around that merges this two, it would be, so somebody said, or I think that your work and your passion, if you could mix them, it's a deadly or very good combination. So maybe if there is something in travel, in communities, and I think Airbnb comes very close to that. They've kind of disrupted space, disrupted the entire model of how hotels and why exist, and how can communities come together and make a revenue, make a living out of them. So, which I feel is a very sustainable way for the travel industry to, and also helps the local communities. Yeah, so maybe something around that would be a good product manager fit.
That is nice. You have product manager fit. That is good. I'm great. I mean, great that you have that clarity. Actually, yeah, I need to think. Okay, Mohit.
Yeah, I think I'm just feeling, Amit has so much clarity where I stand, the similar, setup. But at least I'm not a very big fan of this fang that we hear out, at least. I'm not sure if I really want to end up in that space. So I have certain checklist or some, some pieces which I really want to, I'll call it, tick it off. One is, like I've realized that B2B is my go-to space, right? Like where I would like to go. And precisely into platform and technology products is where I find fun, and or my current fun is I call. And thirdly is I've spent some time in the healthcare, and that too onto US healthcare and health insurance. So I think that's one of the domain, and it's a booming domain where I've seen now a lot of stress given on the consumer side where it was not earlier. So it was more about just processing the claim and getting the premiums and all. So there are a lot of good companies who are doing great in it. Like, if I name it across, I'm not sure how many of you know, Innovator is one of a startup to scale up thing, who are doing a great job in solving some great problems in that space, right? So I'm not targeting that, but somewhere I see, that, and that's also into the startup to scale up mode where you'll get a lot of opportunities and you can bring in the value. So but the checklist is all about B2B platform technology products, and something if it could be either in fintech or health insurance. So some of the spaces where I would love to explore more, and I think I can sustain too.
Nice. That's called keeping the options open. That's good. Well played. Manish?
Yeah, so I think I have not done as nice, research in terms of what exactly where I would like to be. So I think this question has put me a bit into the thinking mode. Uh, I really enjoyed my work with the education sector. I was working with Macmillan Education Australia as a product manager, and that needed me to interact with a lot of schools, with a lot of parents, principals, teachers, and I do think I really enjoyed that time to build relationships, and it was a new area for me. So and we needed to build a new e-commerce website for them, So, how a typical e-commerce website works for shopping and things that we are quite familiar with, education works very differently. And so it once again proved to me my that the cookie cutter solutions, or things that have worked previously, may not always continue to work when you enter new territories. And why building relationships, speaking, engaging with people in conversations, understanding how, kind of interviewing them, and trying to understand, doing a lot of qualitative research, by the way, which really helped me in that role. So I think I do enjoy a lot of qualitative research. I do enjoy conversations. I love that education sector, to be able to help people, get the books that will help them succeed in their
Nice.
curriculum, things like that. So yeah, I think if I were to call out that, that's one experience that comes to my mind.
Awesome. Awesome. So, okay. So, I mean, I don't know where my answer is going to fit here, but I'm still going to say it nevertheless. Um, I'm too capitalist in that mindset when it comes to products, okay, specifically products, because service is okay, service will be done, will be offered, given, you'll probably get your check immediately, right? When it comes to products, and when the value delivery has to be streamed through in an incremental manner, that's what product delivery would be to the end consumer. I think there has to be a way out for all products to make money. I think if that plan itself is missing, or maybe it's not sketched out yet, that is my first go-to for any product. So I don't care if the roadmap is not ready. I don't care if the objectives, goals, everything is not ready. I need to know that how your vision translates into making money. That is very important. I mean, it might sound very short-sighted, but I do believe that that is what is ailing. So because we deal in the early stage startup phase where we work with great ideas, okay, the ideas are superb. I mean, if I tell you a few of the ideas which come to us for validation, you won't believe how. I mean, you're almost convinced that they're all next disruptors, right? But they don't really. They may disrupt the market, but they may not really survive because you can't build a business out of that product. So I'm inclined to those ideas and products where you can build a business out of, and then this whole canvas of evil design to social design comes through, right? Where in between you're fitting the pieces of commercial, moral, and ethical. So you have to fine tune where the product stands and then how you make money from it. But I think making money is very important. Whether it is to return it back to your own people who are building the product, or at least to your investors, or answerable to anybody out there. So yeah, great conversation, guys. I loved this. And yeah, we have to do the second one very, very soon. Any concluding notes? Anybody?
Yeah, part two, profitability, right? I think that what you just mentioned in terms of, I think that's such fundamental thing. And as I was saying, that people, I agree that there is a bit of a inclination towards building empathy, which is the right thing to do. But I think where I also see signs where in the ambition to scale, and in the ambition to grow, at what point in time solving these problems will move the right business metric and get the right numbers. I think that seems to be getting missed out in a lot of products. So yeah, I think that's a good point that you raised, and I completely second that.
I mean, I don't know how many times it happens that you can actually build products that users did not know they wanted, right? I mean, the same philosophy which Apple started with, that there's no point in going to the users. They don't know what they want. The same Ford example, which is cited over and over again, that if a faster horse is something people wanted, etc. But I don't think it happens often. There are a few cases here and there, and if you put your brains to it, maybe you can't just sit down and come up with these ideas over a chatter like this, or a conversation over a bar. But yeah, it is very important for products to make money.
So we started this conversation as who would be a good product manager, and I think if anyone's listening to, whenever they listen to this podcast, product management is still a nascent profession. We have just started. We're still not matured, and I think for everyone who wants to be a product manager, I think this is the best job, which is lying at the intersection of tech, business, and yeah, as long as any product manager anyone who wants to become a product manager looks at profitability, looks at making money, looks at doing some impact, yeah, they should be successful.
Yeah, I would actually, just trying to see how this conversation went on. I think it was a great refresher, with a lot of those dynamics going in the market and other stuff where we started, right? And then it also helped me to think a lot about, how my journey has been, where I might have failed and how is something that I could do better. So I think let's continue having these conversations. It was very fruitful. The only thing I would end up is, and I think I mentioned it earlier also, not everyone needs to be a product manager, right? And essentially, there is a spree which we really have to think and take those decisions, right? Like what is good and what is not good. So that's where that spot lies. And yeah, looking forward to more of these enriching conversations. Yeah, it was great to have it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.